I don't know how the lawsuit turned out. I didn't keep up
Which
with that.
one?
Yeah. Yeah. Hey guys, we're gamers. D-Payne and I met playing video games. Today we're going to talk about books. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Pointless Discourse with myself, Hoppocalypse, and D-Payne.
Hello, it is me, D-Payne.
We do not have a guest this week. You can't trick me with your mind games, D-Payne. No, as we were
I'm
chatting...
the guest. Welcome.
Yeah, you've never been on an episode before. Welcome in for the first time ever.
I've never been a guest on a podcast. Wait, you have, haven't you? Like a while ago, right?
I don't know if that ever aired.
That's what I was just wondering. You at least got the first half.
Yeah.
If I want guests, I have to invite them.
Yeah, I think that the person that invited me on wanted me to say something different about my opinion of, I think, two things.
Men? Oh.
I feel like a lot of men are disappointed in my opinion of men, but
Not me. I'm used to it.
but it was conversations about Mixer, and I think I don't know if I said what they were expecting me to say about everything relating to it. And then also about the announcement of Overwatch 2, I believe, which I was like, dead game. And guess what, everybody? It's old news in the gaming world at this point, but they've been lying to you. There's never going to be a PvE mode. They just wanted your money. Yeah.
I haven't been paying attention to Overwatch.
Yeah, like Overwatch.
2, yeah.
Overwatch 2 exists, but they claimed that they needed to change the monetization system to earn the money to develop the player, like the story campaign of Overwatch. And then it was leaked that the guy was emailing people saying like, "Oh yeah, that's never going to be a thing. We just wanted more money."
Hey, it works.
No,
It shows. They got their money.
It's anti-consumer.
I didn't say I agree with it. I'm just saying it worked because they got the money.
They did get the money.
But then again, there's a lot of things in Blizzard that I'm like, how you keep doing what you doing? But
I don't know how the lawsuit turned out. I didn't keep up
which
with that.
one?
Yeah. Yeah. Hey guys, we're gamers. D-Payne and I met playing video games. Today we're going to talk about books.
You know, it's really funny that I was going through old files, I think yesterday, because I was trying to find something. And there's a file, hold on, I can bring it up real quick. I'm not going to play it as a video file. I just want to say the name of it, which was, oh, shoot, it was right here. Of course, I'm not going to find it now that I'm looking for it. I think it was like, hey. I'm not seeing it. I'm going to find it
as soon as we stop recording.
There you go. I found it. It's called Look. Hold on. Can I send this to you? Is it the file?
Is this the one when you clap?
Is it big? Is it too? Oh, sweet. I can send it. There you go. Oh.
Yeah. Is it the one when you clap?
No. That one is a supportive friend, which is still on my computer.
Oh,
this is
flop.
Yes, this is when we played TFT years ago. Well, you still play TFT.
Yeah.
Yeah, and back when I was a lot more interested in editing, and it was just like, look, I flop. I'm just like, I didn't even realize that was on here.
Yeah, that's a very streamer, that was very much a precursor of all of this, because we would meet weekly on Wednesdays, and then I'd be playing TFT seriously, and you'd be like, but did you hear about this, Hop? And I'd be like, hold on, I have to do math.
Yeah, I was there for vibes, and then Hop was there for I need to do well. and then I was like, I think I'm decent enough at reading spreadsheets to do to try whatever it was, ranked. Mm-hmm. And I never got out of gold. To where Hop had to make a scrub account so we could still do our Tuesday TFT. Yeah.
What a time.
Yeah. Life was simpler. We weren't allowed outside.
I really do miss being able to stream on a smaller platform. I wonder if things didn't go kablooey within Microsoft, if I would have continued.
I don't know.
Because I did eventually find a way to gain a bigger audience and have numbers on Twitch, which is, in itself, it was a lot of work, I admit. And I don't know. It's kind of crazy to think that I was planning and making content literally every day in hopes that I could have enough numbers, in hopes that one day it would be enough. And for me to just wake up one day and go, I'm really sad all the time and stressed out.
Yeah, I feel like there's two, like, there's more than two, but, like, the big camps are, like, people who, like, I'm not saying this is you, but it's just, like, I want the big numbers so that way I can, I don't know, make some sort of income or something like that. Because I know we talked about it, and it's just, like, we don't want live stream to be our full-time income, because that's stressful in its own right.
But the serotonin from the numbers.
Yeah, it's I don't think that works in my head anymore.
Okay.
I think now I like the creation process of it, which is why I'm like, I know, like, I like streaming, but I'm just like, I don't feel fulfilled. It's because, like, all my cast members for, like, the TTRPG stuff, like, are busy, and that's, fortunately, I think Charity Palooza is just, like, that's coming up. We did find the game we're playing.
Okay.
So, well, I say we. I chose the game we're playing. There's no we, but it's, we're going to be playing a little game called Blades in the Dark.
Oh, keep plugging it, because this will release, about a month before? Yeah, a month before Charity Palooza. So keep on plugging. What's the date?
July 20th. So July 20th will be a Charity Palooza 6. It's crazy to think that it's been 6 years doing this. But it's pretty much it's an all-day stream where we raise money for One Up on Cancer, which I still need to contact them. But lately, over the past...
At the time of recording this, you have plenty of time.
Yes. But I think the past 3 years, we started a tradition of running a fully connective, like, TTRPG story. So, like, the first one was 5e. I think that was the escape from Chain Island, which it was a prison island. And let's see, I knew one was, that was really interesting. One was, like, this group of troops that had to, like, go inland and, like, get forces, or let the report known that the island was under attack by fire giants. The second one was guards that were, like, kind of inner sanctum, was like, we got to escape, and they had to get this, like, noble people, like, this noble group out. And then the last one, which I know J2 loved, was because he was part of that group, was level 10 villains. And it's like, okay, you guys have to escape, and you guys are, like, Chain Island is on a volcano. So the volcano is erupting, and you have to, like, get to the docks before the volcano hits. And so with that, and, like, so it was a little bit of a maze. And I remember the end of that because, like, the way it seemed like everything was in different times, just the way it was going. But the way it worked out was the first group, they did their own thing. They went to somewhere which nobody else really went to that section, and then they had to go back to the docks. And then the second group, they had to go through the city while, like, kind of fighting giants and I think a few orcs and stuff as they escorted this family out, or this royal family out, that was getting a tour. And then they were at the docks, but, like, who was also at the dock were the people from the first group. And then the final group, they had to go through there, but then they were going through, like, what was the remains of the previous game's battle. So there's, like, all they see is just, like, because I like just throwing giant puddles of blood everywhere when they kill anything. So it's just, like, there's blood everywhere, and then there's just, like, a couple other monsters. Like, I think I remember J2 liked it so much because I remember reading, he's like, I want a Displacer Beast as like my ranger animal companion. And I'm like, so I messaged him, was like, hey, I know what I want you to play as. And if you're okay with it and it works, you can have a Displacer Beast. And I think that's all I had to say, because then he was like, yes.
Just no more questions. Just let me in.
It was very overpowered. But so anyway, we did all that, but then it ended with because they were level 10 characters, they were just melting everything as they went through, and then they got to the end, and it's like, okay, what you see in front of you is everybody else with like people trying to get on the ship, and I think they threw up like I don't remember what spell, but like there was a wizard that put up this like overpowered wall that they got from like a donation to the charity, and it's just like, hey, what are you gonna do? And pretty much everyone escaped, but they pretty much got a different boat and just went somewhere else. So there's just somewhere in the world, those 3 guys are just going somewhere, which we never really brought back up. Yeah, and then last year we did Call of Cthulhu, which that was fun. But yeah, this year we're doing a heist. But yeah, it all goes for 1-Up on Cancer. And excuse me.
Yeah, so keep track of D-Payne's socials and different things. He'll have you guys all up to date on that information if you want to be able to witness all of the role-playing
chaos
and how the charity goes. I know last year you had a goal that was related to the podcast. Have you planned out your goals yet?
No, I realized how close Charity Palooza is. This happens every year, and I'm like, oh, I gotta think of something. A couple somethings. So
hopefully we'll be able to plug whatever that might be before the date, but we are very ahead on recording, so we'll see.
Yes. So, I don't know. We'll figure something out. I don't know if we'll do another special recording for this, but my chair turned too far. But yeah, we'll figure it out. It always works out where it seems like there's one thing that never actually gets done, and this one is the One Ring game, and it's because the players are really busy. Like, I have the cast, it's just we're all a little bit too busy. Yeah, so where I'm just gonna be like, we're gonna do it now. Okay. So
right.
Anyway.
So yeah, to go back, so as you can tell, D-Payne and I are very much nerds in all sorts of ways, specifically tabletop role-playing games, and that also extends out to us reading a ton of books. So if you didn't catch me, I think I said it quickly earlier that we're talking about books, but this is the start of a little like mini gap series between what we feel like watching to time things with holidays, where we gave each other oddly specific book requests, and we will roll dice to see who gets to talk first about the request we were given and what book we recommend to go along with that.
We don't have a fun name. The only name that keeps popping up in my head is Book Talk, which who knows if that's what it gets named. You guys will find out. It could be that,
and then colon the book titles.
Yeah. You know what? I want to break out
fancy dice.
The clown die that looks like a smushed marble.
I have bunnies.
Yeah. So I was like, I could roll one of the. Whoa, this has sharp edges.
The D4 is very sharp if you poke the top.
Yeah, it's like caltrops. Okay, so, do we want to explain what we're doing first, and then we'll roll?
I already kind of did.
Oh, I didn't know if we wanted to do the whole synopsis of the episode.
Oh, I mean, yeah. So we're gonna roll dice to see what order we do this, and then when it comes down to each of our sections, we're gonna kind of talk about, like I said, we'll talk about the request we were getting from the other person, how the book fills that, kind of a general overview of the book. So I know the A24 series were full of spoilers. There shouldn't be spoilers in this, so that we can, if we haven't read the books that each other's recommended, we can hopefully read them and still be surprised by what's in them. And then
all my books I know are on Hop's to read list, and so yes. I'm going to spoil them all. And that's when I leave the podcast. Yeah, that'll be the end of the podcast.
And then basically, if we'd recommend the book and who we would recommend it to, and just things to know if you're interested in the book. And then we'll go over next week's oddly specific requests so you can prepare for those.
Yep. And we're rolling D6 because we don't roll D6s a lot. So I gotta like reset this.
I think you're gonna go first.
Nuh-uh. What did you roll?
One.
2. Back in the box you go. There's a reason you weren't allowed out.
Silly clowns.
Here we go. I also don't know where to put these. So, all right.
Too many monitors.
My physical dice aren't on the monitors. All right. Yeah, and then I think we said like 20 minutes each, but I think this will just be, I have the timer set for 20 minutes, and we'll go from there.
We'll just stop each other if we approach past 20 minutes. How's that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, I don't know, we can let each other know. Well, I have the timer, so I'll let us know. But, okay, so I guess I'll start the timer after I say the oddly specific request, and then I almost read my own, which didn't make sense for the book I chose. But so Hop gave me a book that reminds you of the enthralling feeling of trying a good food for the first time. I'm going to start my timer now. So I mentioned to Hop that I was hoping I could talk about this, my choice, but I was like, I don't know. We didn't like give hints or anything for what we did, and that was the first one, and I'm like, oh yeah, here we go. And then I kind of cheated a little bit because I chose a whole series. It's a 20-book series, but
Wheel of Time.
No. I never read Wheel of Time, but it is one. I'm going to talk about one book. And you might have heard of it. I know I've mentioned it on the podcast before, and it's the Redwall series. So pretty much, the Redwall series, they have, I think the way someone put it is that Brian Jakes, I think that's how you say his name, is make sure that like food is also a character. So there was like this little article I was reading that is like an excerpt of the first book in the series. He didn't write them in order. So like Redwall, I think, which was the first book he wrote, is actually like in the series book 10. But there's like a little excerpt here. It's like, bring me the white gooseberry wine, fetch me the rosemary, the thyme, the thyme, beech nuts, and honey. Quickly now, my friends, he squeaked while having a dandelion wildly with his tail. I, Hugo, will create the grayling a la Redwall, such will melt in the mouth of mice. Fresh cream with I need lots of fresh cream. Bring me the mint leaves too. And like, there's just all the stuff. There's like another one from later, the 7th book. I don't remember where this one ends up in the series, called The Bell Maker. I think this happens I think that one's closer to like the beginning of the series, where it's like a joyous meal for honest creatures. Dishes were passed to be shared, both sweet and savory. October ale and strawberry cordial. Wow, I hope I'm saying some of these words right. Tarts, pies, flans, puddings served out and replaced with fresh delights from the Redwall kitchens. Turnovers, trifles, breads, fondants. I don't think I'm saying that word right. Salads, pastries, cheese, alternated with bakeries of green sap milk, mint tea, rose hip cup, and elderberry wine. And it's just and not everything is like these huge feasts. It's like there's another one in another book called Marl Fox, which I think is closer to the end of the timeline, where another excerpt is hot cornbread with hazelnuts and apple baked into it, with a salad of celery, lettuce, shredded carrots, and white button mushrooms, with beakers of hot mint and dandelion tea to wash it down. And there's like tons of other things in here. I'm not going to go into all the descriptions they have with the food, but I haven't read the Redwall series since childhood, like since I was in middle school. And I still remember them Brian Jakes talking about like scones and like the honey and the blueberry like stuff that goes on it. and it's just, I don't even think I didn't have scones till like I went to England, and it's just, they're like hard biscuits. But yeah, it was the way he described it. I was like, yes, I want these.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is an unfortunate one to pick when I said I was getting hungry for lunch.
I know.
So I needed myself to eat some almonds as you went into those very delicious sounding descriptions.
Now, how would you describe the almonds? Like, were they with mint berry, dandelion stuff?
If only.
However, and the other reason I chose this is I remember, so another guest that we had on here, Kathy, she also read these books, and like we were talking about it on Twitter back and forth one day of just like, I think her tweet, I should have looked it up, but it was just, she's like, the day I fell in love with food was the day I was reading Redwald's books, and I'm like, oh my goodness, you're so right.
Connection.
Yes. But I remember because of that conversation, I was like looking it up, and they have a Redwall cookbook. Here, I'll send you the Wikipedia link. That's you. It is you. The Redwall cookbook, and it's really neat. I thought about getting it at one point.
It would be an interesting series for you to cook through.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, they have spring, summer, autumn, and winter recipes, and I think they're all recipes that are in the book, in like within the series at different parts. But that was my choice for. Oh, I lost the spreadsheet for the remainder of the feeling. But I wanted to talk about this series. I wanted to talk about one of the books. Because like I could talk, like the food is great, but it's like it's much more than just these characters eating foods. So Redwall is this it's a children's fantasy novel where I guess a good way to explain it is imagine the legends of King Arthur. They're not directly they're not like one for one translations, but there is a little bit of inspiration. But like all the characters are mice, moles, hares, badgers. There's like the evil creatures, which they tend to be more of the, I guess, like the force against them, where there's rats, weasels, foxes. I know there's a giant snake in, I think, Martin the Warrior. But it's, I think, a 20 book series. Oh, I was wrong. A 22 book series. That kind of tells the story of this abbey called Redwall, and like the people that are there, they're just like, some of them are like monks and stuff, but it's just pretty much, I don't remember like religion and all that stuff being a big deal of it. Rather, it's like the abbey. It just seemed like almost because there's like a friar and there's, I don't know. It's been a while since I've read the books, but there's themes and stuff I remember from it. But it always seemed like there was, like for some reason, to where I can't remember, like people were always trying to like attack Redwall, and I don't know if Redwall was like the front line of defense for like the rest of the realm or something. I'm trying to like scan through, but I don't know. But anyway, the book I wanted to talk about, there's multiple things in this book, and I didn't realize until I was like thinking about it that a lot of stuff for my D&D world, there's like some stuff in there that within the series that I took and brought into my world. But there's I guess a good way to explain this to people is that badgers are the equivalent of dwarves in this world. They kind of burrow into like these large mountains. I think they love like living in these like kind of caves and within mountain systems and all this stuff. And there's a mountain called Salamanstron. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's a big old word. Salamanstron. Salamandrstrand. Where pretty much it's like, I guess a way to explain it is like in Lord of the Rings, the Mines of Moria, how it's just like this huge like cave system home that was carved out of a mountain, and it like just goes deep into the earth as the dwarves go and mine and get gold and all this stuff. It's similar to that. And in one of the books, like, there's a character that finds it, but there's the book that I was remembering is called Lord Brocktree, which is actually in the chronological book series, the first one, but is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13th book that he wrote. But that book is, you follow Lord Brocktree, who is this badger, as him, and he has this a hare maid, so a rabbit named Dottie, and they're trying to get back Salamandrstrand from, pretty much clear it out from this like these wildcat that like taking it over. And they go, pretty much he like, I don't know if he leads a crew or something about it, but it's just the exploration of Salamandrstrand, of when they're going in there. And I know there's another book where it is focused on there, where I think like another badger like comes home, and it's just pretty much they go and like they're like going through all these like different tunnels and like find different homes, and they find like a kitchen, but like from the outside it just looks like this big dumb giant mountain, but like the inside of it is all like hollowed out to have like different homes and like residences and fortifications, but it's just like this big tall mountain near the sea that everyone's like, that's the badger home. And they have food. They definitely have food. I don't remember any of the food in there, but it's that was one of the books. There's a ton of other things. I don't know. I feel like I was talking for a while. I don't know. Do you have questions, Hop, or anything while I think?
No specific questions, because I feel like, not having, like, this is fun because I haven't read the series at all. I've only heard you talk about it, especially when in like PAX Unplugged, you'll find you've pointed out to me there were some like D&D modules that were released that were clearly Redwall inspired, because they have some of the characters on it. I forget, or maybe it was like a full Redwall RPG.
Mouse Guard,
okay. Yeah, and
but this could also Humblewood, I guess, would also be like an inspiration, but it's more avian. This picture is what inspired me to play an Alwyn, but they're not like that in actual D&D.
Yeah, for anyone that's only listening to audio, D-Payne pulled from his bookshelf, and there was a cutest little owl, looked like a baby owl wearing full armor.
Mm-hmm. It's look up Humblewood. They have a lot of like supplements. Is that the right word? I always think of medicine. But yeah, they have more, where I think that like whole thing expanded, but yeah.
Yeah. So, no, it definitely sounds, I can see why the prompt fits and everything like that. And as far as, I don't know if I'm at the age that I'm willing to dedicate myself to so many books. But I remember being like, yeah, if I was growing up and discovered those, that would be one of those things, kind of like how some people, would read all of like the Lemony Snicket books. As soon as you find something you love, you're just like, oh, I know what I like. I will buy every single one of these. I can see how Redwall was that.
Yeah, I got them a lot from the library, and it was just like, I got 2 weeks, and I'm on a bus. Let's just read them.
Yeah, I think I was big Goosebumps.
Yeah, I think my mom was like against me getting like reading Goosebumps. So, but I will say that like they are connected, but I know I didn't read them in order because I didn't realize there was a chronological order at the ripe old age of middle school. I don't know how old I was, but I will say I don't know how well they translate now, like to being older. I have thought about every once in a while going through them again, but I also have a ton of other books that I'm reading and stuff. So, but I would say Redwall, like, which is the first book, is like I feel like from what I remember, they all kind of like have there is like a thread that connects them, but it's I don't.
Is it more
think,
like reoccurring characters more so than
yes,
plot thread? Yeah.
Yeah, because like well, since Redwall was the first book, there's like references to Martin, Martin the Warrior, who's I think almost the equivalent of like King Arthur, because his whole thing is like he goes and finds this I don't know if it's actually a magic sword or just like a symbolic like the sword of Redwall or whatever it's called. Hold on, I'm pretty sure if I click on this it will tell us. But he let's see. Oh, that took me to that's not what it took me to. But like I remember he had to go and pretty much he goes and tries to get this sword or like his sword like was of legend, and like his son went to go find it and fought like this giant snake for it, which I think is like the size of a regular snake. But
to animals, giant.
yeah, and like had to that was like holding on to it, and so there's that's right. Okay, I'm like scanning through the Wikipedia article because I'm like I don't remember a lot of magic, and they're like the books are considered fantasy, but it doesn't really have a lot of magic or supernatural like things in it.
It's fantasy as in like animals are
yes
sentient.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I guess the only other thing I'd ask you then is I can tell you really would recommend these books to people, but I guess specifically who would you recommend them to?
Oh yeah, that was one of the questions. I think definitely like if you have like I think middle school is like if you have a middle schooler that's like that wants to get into reading and they want to like read fantasy, and like Lord of the Rings is just a little bit hard. Yeah.
I remember trying to read Lord of the Rings when I was like I remember my sister really loved Lord of the Rings, but she was 10 years older.
Yes.
And she was like, oh, The Hobbit is for kids. And I remember starting The Hobbit 4 or 5 times and not getting very far. So, like, I can tell you a lot about Bilbo Baggins. Couldn't tell you about anything about his trip.
Yeah. Yeah. That, honestly, Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit would also probably be another decent choice for this. Maybe more The Hobbit. But Redwall was the first thing that came to mind. But yeah, it's I think these books are lighter because I think The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, more The Hobbit, like it's lighter than Lord of the Rings, but it's dense, I think is a good way to put it, where it's just like there's a lot of fantasy like things that you got to pick up with, and the most like fantastical part about Redwall is that the animals talk. But like everything else, like you could just switch out the mice for men. the mice for men.
That sounds like another classic.
And like all the animals for like just different humans or humanoid races, if you want to stick within the fantasy world, and it would still fit. And it's not like I don't remember it being super violent. Like there's definitely like there's death and
there's
fighting.
Discussions of war, but there's not really like
no they go there's battle, like they do have fights and battles, but it's not like
visceral.
Yeah,
it's not the Poppy War. Got it.
yes that's very true. You know what though, that one scene did make me a little hungry now. uh-oh well, I'm the man from the celebrities. Yum 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 human. Anyway, I forget, was it the Poppy War or was it a different book where it's like they were just fighting so long or traveling so long they didn't have enough to eat, and there was like burning bodies, and they're like, I'm disgusted that there's like the smell of human, but it's also the smell of meat, which is like activating like my stomach from being hungry. And I'm like,
If it is in the Popular
I
series,
think
it's not
it's
in the one that I've read.
okay.
I don't recall that being in the first one. The
Yeah,
first one was very much her unlocking.
yes.
Like, they're like, oh, you're already strong. And then she's just like, oh, yeah, you guys pissed me off enough.
Hmm.
And then it ends on me going, wow, that was morally gray.
Yeah. Um. So, it could have been another book. I don't remember which one. uh. But yeah, it's but yeah, if people want like a lighter fantasy style, like a lot of these books like they can be considered one-offs, but there's definitely other characters. Like pretty much, I think Martin the Warrior, who's like the the big name within, who kind of I think he's one of the people who sets up Redwall. He or at least the Abbey in Redwall. The he's mentioned or is he's in, but not the like main character for a lot of the books after Martin the Warrior, and I think he's in Redwall. And then Matameo is his son, who like takes up the mantle after him, and so like those characters are mentioned a lot, and brought up. But I think if I remember correctly, they do a pretty decent job of explaining like who these people are. Oh, the time finished. Like who they are and like just a quick overview. But then it's like if you want the history and stuff, like because I think Mariel of Redwall, I think in that book they're just like I think she's the wife of Martin. Do a quick thing. Or becomes the wife of Martin. I don't know. It's been a while. Um, she knows of Martin and it's just like I need to get to him or something. Like he's Martin is known as like this bastion of safety for a lot of like people who fall in hard times, especially the Abbey and Redwall. And so there's a lot of focus on. There's probably why so many people go in there and why everyone wants to fight it. But yeah, it's but yeah, the Redwall series was something that was always fondly looked back on in my time, and I remember Lord Brocktree and Salamanstron, those two books always stuck out to me. But then Redwall and like I remember a lot of them, but I think it was the Badger like fortresses of with their with inside the mountains that I always thought was really cool. And in my own world, and this will be the last thing I say and I'll hand it over to you, Hop, was the whole like hollowed out mountain that like had this fortress slash town is in Mirken, my own town or own world. And it's like there's like these 5 mountains that were originally hollowed out by giants that the dwarves kicked out, now people live in. So I don't know, I think it's a neat concept. Was there anything else I had to say? Did I miss over?
No, I think you
Let's
covered
see.
everything.
Book recommendations. Yeah. All right. So now it is your turn.
Okay. So to completely flip the script, D. Payne gave a middle grade, long running series of books. And I have for you guys I think if I look it up, 146 page book. So D. Payne's oddly specific request for me was a book that makes you yearn for public transportation. And before we started recording, I said to D. Payne, I had a couple different books I considered. I'll say the honorable mentions for this. I had Normal People, but I felt like I couldn't specifically talk about it yearning for public transportation, and that was more just like a yearning, like the whole premise of Normal People feels like a book about yearning, and there happens to be public transportation in it, but it doesn't feel like it's like not quite as motivated by the public transportation as the book I did end up picking. And then another one that I also considered, it's called Oye, Oye. I think that one released recently. I got to read it as an advanced reader copy through NetGalley. That one had like the opposite effect, where it made me yearn for public transportation because the descriptions of being stuck in a car were so like uncomfortable that I was like, it would be nice to be in public transportation instead of this car. But I didn't think that necessarily fit the prompt the best, because the reason that they're stuck in a car for a good portion of that book is that they were leaving due to like the warnings for hurricane. I believe it was Katrina.
Oh, yeah. Were they also like, it's not my child. I have to do what's right.
No, not quite. But they were, I think, trying to flee from the area that Hurricane Katrina, or it wasn't Katrina, it was a different hurricane, was meant to like touch down on in like the southern half of the U.S. But they were stuck in a car that was like overheated and stuck in a bunch of traffic. Not necessarily because public transportation is failing people and that it's not really existent in the U.S., but because everyone was fleeing at the same time. So in theory, in that one, I was like, well, if there was public transportation, I'm sure all of those train cars would be stuffed and it would be impossible to get out of whatever towns you're in. So the book I did go with is called Open Water. Like I said, 146 pages. I believe its description is, just a contemporary literary fiction. I know some people try to market this as a romance, and romantic feelings are a main, like, point of the book. But I wouldn't give this to someone who's like, I want to read a romance book. So the reason I say that this book kind of fits the prompt is because of this. Like, I was trying to find a quote, and I found one online, and it reads as, the train pulls in and she taps her Oyster card on the reader. Stepping on board, you both wave as the doors close. She smiles at you as she settles into her seat, waving again. You begin to do the same, chasing after the train in pantomime fashion, spurred on by your laughter. You run and wave and laugh until the train gathers speed and the platform runs out. She escapes the frame until it is just you on the platform, a little breathless, a little ecstatic, a little sad. So I was like, this book uses public transportation to create like that like closeness but distance feeling that I think is really impressive. And this quote in context, I believe these two characters met each other in London and then she goes to college in Dublin. So he's saying goodbye to her because he's like, well, I was hoping we could get close, but by the time we met, you were already leaving, so I'm going to drop you off at the train station. And without public transportation, you don't get the same, like, I don't think you get the same feeling. Like when you say, okay, you're driving to college, I'll see you like next weekend because you'll drive home. You don't get that same kind of drama as it is when you like own cars and things like that. And then I believe there are other points in this book where they talk about taking the trains to try and visit each other and how it's like there's like missed opportunities because of the scheduling of the trains or like train delays or tracks closing. So I was like, it makes me like it makes me wish I had more public transportation just because of like their ability to just go places and not have to worry about parking our cars, which is like parking gives me anxiety if I've never been somewhere before. But also because it creates such like a cool backdrop of like, I don't know, like I feel like modern horror movies are like, oh, the cell phones don't work, that's why everything's happening. Whereas in a place with public transportation, if you're getting chased by like a villain and you end up in the train station, they're like, oh, the trains are down, then it's like, okay, it makes sense to me as a reader why everything is like a bunch of missed opportunities. But there's another quote I found about sitting across from each other on a train, but I don't think it necessarily like hits the same as that first one does. But yeah, so that's it and how it fits the prompt. The general synopsis of this book, I kind of alluded to it, where it's like romantic feelings, but really it's written from I think you could tell from the quote, it's written kind of from like, I think it's called second person perspective, where it says you, but it's you in reference to the main character, but it's putting you in the main character's shoes. But the main character is a young black man in London, and he starts to fall for a girl, and she goes off to college in Dublin, and they're both artists in different ways. He's a photographer, I believe, and she's a dancer. But they both are like, have that back and forth feeling where people are like, the art you create is so beautiful, but you're being given limited prospects because you're people of color. And he talks about how his art is influenced by other black artists. There's a lot of cool references to other black authors, a lot of black musicians. I've seen people build playlists just off of like the different artists they reference in this book, and it's pretty cool. I haven't listened to the playlist myself because I don't really like to listen to music while I read, but I know some people felt like that enhanced the experience to kind of give context on why the character was so inspired by all these different things. Like when I was double checking some facts about this book, there was a Reddit thread for one of the musicians, and they're like, mention, he's mentioned in this book, guys. So that's kind of fun because then it's kind of a cool crossover between, you know, reading and rap and R&B music and all that kind of tying together to remind everybody like, hey, media and representation is really cool and really important, and it can help inspire other people to continue creating stuff from the heart. And then so they like fall for each other, but it's like bad timing. And then all while she's like away, he's contending with a lot of like violence and struggles of being a black man in London and the dangers of it. So like in some ways, Payne, I think you'd really like it, because watching Moonlight after reading this, I was like, yep, yeah,
Yeah.
Because
oh,
go ahead.
Sorry. I remember because I was looking it up and I was like, oh, I seen this on the gram. Well, your gram. And I think I do remember you mentioned it after, like, around or shortly after watching Moonlight. So, yeah, like, I was like, I didn't recognize the title at first, and then I looked at the cover art, and I'm like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I would hold it up, but I got it from the library. But I think it, like, the writing in it is like super poetic and super pretty, and it's it packs in a lot in just like 140 pages, 146 pages if I want to be exact. But yeah, it's very much, if you're going into it hoping that they like have their happily ever after, maybe don't, because I think after I finished this book, I like put it down and stared at a wall. Like very much that energy. But it's written so beautifully, and I do plan on reading more by the author. I think he has at least one other work. But yeah, I guess, let me think. Yeah, the synopsis, I guess the much shorter, like crunched down version. Kind of like a book about like missed opportunities and like the violence that people of color face in different countries. And I think the most interesting part of the book for me is it kind of talks about it from the perspective of a man contending with having a wide range of emotions versus society telling him like, well, you need to act like this or you're going to be perceived in all these different ways, or you're going to leave yourself vulnerable to be hurt. And the guy being like, but like, if I want to love someone, it's gonna hurt, but I'd rather love them. And then them having to live with the duality of it all. And then I guess recommendation before I forget, I would recommend this book to people that like poetic writing, and I would, like I said, I would not recommend it if you're looking for the like boy meets girl, they smooch, the end. It's a very
war.
it's heavy at times, and really kind of like very raw in explaining how this guy kind of, like, he starts out as like this confident guy, and as he faces more things as he's growing up and trying to decide who he wants to be, ends up kind of beaten down a lot during that. So it gets really sad and really heavy, but I think it's a really beautiful read, and I think it's a nice introduction book. Introduction book's not the right way to do it, but I think because it's a shorter book, I think it's a nice way to start branching out if you're not one to really read outside of like your own identity, because like while I don't have necessarily the same experiences as this main character, reading about it, it makes me go, wow, life is tough for everybody, but especially some people, and that's not fair. Take down the system.
I looked it up. His other book is Small Worlds.
Small Worlds, okay. The cover looks similar, right? Like the similar two-tone.
I don't know. Hold up. I just looked it up. I found the author on
Oh, this
Wikipedia.
one's 258 pages, even longer. And it has a higher rating than the other one. I wonder if the one that I'm recommending, Open Water, has a lower rating, because I've seen it marketed to people as like, oh, this is a romance. And it's like, there is a relationship in it, but I wouldn't classify it as a romance book.
Yeah, it says, not to like take away from the book you just explained, but but yeah, it seems that Small Worlds is a focus. It's another poetic novel, but it's focused more on identity, grief, and jazz. So maybe more more on the character rather than like figuring out the relation. Let's
It looks
see.
like Small World says it's about fathers and sons, faith and friendship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So.
Gonna see if this is at my library.
So, but yeah, no, they won some. Open Waters won a bunch of awards. I don't know a lot about book awards. To be fair, I don't know a lot about movie awards, awards in general. So,
I guess, do you have any questions? I feel like I covered all the major points in our little list.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. 'Cause, yeah, that was with mine. It was just like 22 books to pull things from, but while I talk about one, and yours is like part of that. So it's like the relationship part, like when they talk about, is it like?
So it's a lot of like, I guess I would say I could recommend this book to people that like books like Normal People. I feel like Normal People is a lot more generally popular. It also has, Normal People also has like a Hulu like adaptation with some famous actors in it. But essentially, when it comes to the relationship in Open Water, it's kind of like right person, wrong time. I guess if I had to really like dumb it down. But they end up like, they clearly have chemistry, but they're forced to be separated because I think she goes to school in Dublin, and I don't remember if he goes to get higher education or not based on his like circumstances. But he's still like stuck at a distance from her, and they try to make things work, but then based on experiences that they've both had with either the current situations or with past relationships, they keep talking past each other, but it's not really miscommunication. It's more like they both need therapy. And they both need like, they're both not the right person for each other to be able to work through what they need. So like there's certain points in the book where it'll like, because it's the second person perspective, it's kind of like you're in his head, and he has this whole paragraph of something really beautiful that he should share, but instead he just goes, you wouldn't understand anyway, which naturally upsets the other person, and they end up arguing when that's not really what he should have said, but it's what came out of his mouth because society says you should be tough and cool and not care.
Yeah, the way that you described that, I guess, well, without reading the way you described it, I could see a little bit of Moonlight, like of figuring what, I guess, like relationships and life out. But it also, I guess it reminds me a little bit of, hold up. I just gotta click this, Past Lives a little bit of just, I guess
I could see
that
as
second,
well.
that's the second act where they're both kind of in college and trying to
Reconnecting.
yeah, So
Yeah, and being in like completely different places in your lives and going like, okay, I really want this, but you have to talk to me, and the other one's like, sorry, I don't know how to talk to people because I'm emotionally like drowning in a lot of other problems right now, and then they go, well, then you're not the one for me, and it's like, please. Calm down for 2 seconds and think about it.
no, flip the table. Emotions.
So yeah, I can definitely see. Yeah, like if you like A24 emotionally driven films, you'll like Open Water because the two movies we described, Past Lives and Moonlight, is a lot of the movie going, please don't do that. That's bad for you.
How about Ghost Story?
No comment.
Ghost Story's the new Cell.
But yeah, I know it's like a loose interpretation because like public transportation I don't think is necessarily a big driving factor in Open Water. I probably could have tried to find a book where public transportation's more of like you said, like in Redwall, food's kind of like a character.
Yeah.
I've definitely encountered some books where transportation kind of feels more like a character because it's almost like a blocker, and I thought it kind of was in Open Water because it gives me the energy of like when you're a kid and you don't have a car and you wish you could talk to someone, but like you're limited by means of transportation.
Mom. Mom, take me to GameStop. No.
Also, yeah, and I also think like being able to yearn for public transportation also coincides with like pre-cell phone era too, because also like again, it's like my example with horror movies. I have the same excuse when I read like some more modern romances where people are like, he missed my call, so therefore I'm like, okay, text him, okay, send him an email, like if you really want to talk to him so bad, this is the era of cell phones. There's ways.
No, it's his fault.
It's all his fault. But yeah, something about like having an emotionally driven novel where there's a chance to miss each other at a train station. I'm like, oh, I feel so bad. Because, I remember being a teenager and assuming that like I got stood up because someone didn't show up to somewhere on time. And it's like, oh, lo and behold, they had like car troubles, but I didn't find out till like a day later.
Yeah. They had explosive diarrhea, as one does.
Every time before they go to hang out with someone. Yeah. I don't think I have much more to add, and we are approaching the hour mark. So I guess, do you want to introduce the requests that you've given for me next week? You can read your own this time.
Okay. I'll also say that I think this week's one that I wrote for you was subconsciously inspired by Swiss Army Man. Cause
he is a form of public transportation for sure.
Yeah, well, the whole thing that they yearn for is like this pseudo relationship with this woman that the one saw on public transportation and the other one saw a picture of from her on the bus. But anyway, so next week my oddly specific request for Hop is a book that builds the desire to burrow deep into a hibernation cave.
I think I have a couple ideas, but I'll have to really narrow down how I want to interpret that. And then my request for Payne is a book that's perfect for when you need to force yourself to stop rotting in bed.
All right, Atomic Habits. Let's get. That's a book that showed up on my not Spotify, my Audible app, and I'm like, I don't remember buying this. Where did this book come from?
I have listened to that book, and I have probably like taken like maybe one thing out of that book.
The atomic part?
Yes, definitely the atomic part. But I know I also had a phase where I was like, I feel like I'm always rotting in bed, so I need to listen to self-help. And guess what doesn't help when you're already rotting?
Self.
And help.
One, they hold hands together. One and the same. But yeah, I I said before we started recording, I think I have an idea. And in the process of recording, I forgot my idea. So I got a week, or whenever we say we're recording this next. But anyway, if you guys have read either book or part of the series of books that we
one
mentioned.
Of 22
one
books.
Of 800 now. Yeah, one of 22. I guess 23 plus the cookbook. But yeah, if you read any of these books and have thoughts, let us know. What are your favorites? What did you like?
What would you have picked for our oddly specific requests?
Yes. With that, we'll see you next week. So, bye-bye.